Okay, well, let's just talk a little bit this morning. Tell me what we've been talking about for the last too many weeks.
Real truth.
All right, real truth, which is truth. That's our basic contention. There is no such thing as pretend truth or individual truth. There's truth, which is information, and then there's misinformation and falsehoods. Now, what else have we said? We've been dealing primarily with our background as Christians and things that we come to know as a result of growing up in the church, in the Christian environment, in a Christian nation. So what are some of the other things we've talked about? Where does truth come from?
From God. Whether or not you're a Christian or not, it comes from God. So,
God, in our way of looking at things, and my personal viewpoint of the world, all truth comes from God. Whether it's truth in the Bible, or whether it's truth in medicine, or biology, or physics, or whatever, God is the one that put out the truth in the world. And then it's some truth He tells us directly. And some He expects us to figure out on our own. That's the reason He gave us the ability to learn and to study and to research things and to discover things on our own. To not realize that God made us free intellectual individuals is to fail God to understand God's creation in a very serious way. And I'm afraid a lot of people who call themselves Christians don't really understand that. And now, as we went on, the devil is a source of lies. And we talked about how he tries to put lies into the world. And God created us with the ability to believe. And that means we can believe the truth, or we can believe what?
Lies.
a lie.
We believe a lie. We believe something that's not true. And we have the responsibility as Christians to try to teach truth to those around us. What does the Great Commission say?
Go you into all the world and teach.
Or go where?
Into all the world and teach.
Into all the world. And what?
Teach, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit
And?
for the remission of their sins.
And?
They will receive the gift of the Holy Spirit
And teaching them
to observe
all things. Now, we do pretty good when we're teaching ourselves. We're teaching people that agree with us. We are pretty comfortable in our beliefs. And that's sometimes is a real blessing, and sometimes that is a real deterrent to us being able to teach the people in the world. Because one of the things we do is we begin to think that everyone who is smart, intelligent, does what?
Believes like we believe.
Believes like we believe. Well, Does it come as a surprise to you that most of the people in the world don't believe like we do? And you would be surprised how many people you think believe the same way you do who don't. We assume a lot of things. We're going to talk about, before we get into our lesson, I want to talk about two big things that get in the way of us having a teaching influence, a truthful influence on those who don't believe like we do. And one of those, frankly, is arrogance. Well, remember what we had the discussion last week about sacred writings? Who determines whether a writing is sacred or not sacred?
Sacred means it's been sanctified or it's been set apart by somebody, some group, for some purpose.
Yeah, and
So
you know,
any group can set their thing apart, and to them it is set apart, it is sacred.
and you know what? God never set apart and said, this is sacred. No, what he said was, this is true. Men make up that term, sacred and non-sacred. That's a man-made term. And so when we start talking to somebody whose sacred writing is the Vedas or the Krishnas or the writings of Zoroaster or Confucius or the writings of Buddha, the Buddha really doesn't have room for gods. It's a non-theistic philosophy. We tend to think those can't be sacred because they're not the sacred I believe in. Now, we also begin to think that everybody in America more or less accepts the truth as we see it. Is that not true?
Say that again.
We tend to think in our own little circles, in our own, when we're working in our comfort zone, we tend to think that everybody in America tends to see truth the same way we do.
That seems to be declining more and more all the time, but
It does, doesn't it? And how do you find that out?
Well, turn on the TV for one thing.
look around.
Yeah.
Get outside of your comfort zone. Get out of your comfort zone and find out what somebody else really thinks about something. Now, a big part of this whole reason for doing this class, are you okay, Betty? Okay. Is not people our age and our friends and neighbors that are our age. It's younger people. People who are younger than us and who are our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. How many of you think your grandchildren see the world the same way you do?
No. You know, in psychological development, to go from your adult to your parent, in other words, to advance past the value systems that your parents have, you look at the world and you consider what works. And what works is what makes you develop your own value systems past what your parents have.
See, one of the things we need to do, if we're going to talk and work with somebody else, we need to first of all recognize where we're coming from.
Yeah.
All right. Would you say that we have a modern viewpoint?
No.
Well, we do. We are very modernist in our viewpoint. But you see, the modernist viewpoint originated in the 1600s and ran until about 1960. So we believe certain things. We believe there is absolute truth. We believe every problem has a solution. You ever talk to your children or grandchildren about problem solving? About whether problems have solutions or not? Most of them do not believe that problems can be solved. You simply live with them. And that's a very unique and important point of view when it affects whether or not you're going to teach them the truth. Because it means they're not interested in certain aspects of truth. And you've got to start somewhere else. That's what we're going to do this morning. We're going to talk about, and boy, I sure look like a beached whale. That's all right. That's all there is. We're going to talk about worldviews this morning. Now, I asked you last week to look up and try to figure out what that is. Anybody know do you have a definition of a worldview?
Well, it would be a perception that one would have of maybe how to solve problems or what the problems of the world are.
All right, Brad, put up the map, the first slide we have there. Oh, there it is. A worldview is a mental map, and it works like any other map. Works like a road map. This happens to be a road map of Ellis County. And it would tell you, if you were unfamiliar with the roads of Ellis County, it would tell you how to get from point A to point B. If you wanted to go from Ennis to Waxahachie, it would show you the various ways you could do that. And there are at least two or more. A worldview is like a mental map. Now, if Bob gets ready to go somewhere in Ellis County, do you have a map and look at it, Bob?
Not usually.
You take it out of your head, don't you?
Right.
You already know it. Well, that's when I say a worldview is like a mental map. It's already internalized. And it tells us how to answer questions before the question's ever asked. So that we don't really think about it. And if we did think about it, we might come up with something different than what we thought our worldview was. So let's let's talk about what does a worldview do?
It's a framework of ideas.
A framework of ideas. Well, that's a pretty good definition.
But beliefs and values.
It's beliefs and values, but it's beyond, it's really even beyond that. It's because it's how we answer the basic questions of life. Let's see that slide, Brad. The questions that we don't stop to think about how we answer them. We just know the answer. And we assume that because we know the answer, other people know the answer the same way we do. And they may not, because their worldview may be different from ours. And we're going to talk about some different worldviews and what they might mean, but basically know this. There are as many worldviews in the world as there are people. Because everybody's worldview is a little bit unique. Just like our belief system is a little bit unique. And it's very similar. We're going to talk about groups this morning, but be very careful. And I hope I am careful as I try to present this. When you talk about a group of people that hold a worldview, there's probably more difference within that group than there is between that group and another group. Because everybody is a little bit unique. And so we're talking in generalities, when generalities are just an assumption, an average. We assume we kind of lump things together because we have to in order to be able to think about them. Now let's talk about some of these questions. Basic is, who am I? And that is very close to, where did I come from? So we think about things about life, and life, where did life come from? How did life come to existence? We've got a ready answer for that. We can just turn to Genesis 1, and it tells us. But do you really understand what Genesis tells you? Have you ever looked closely at what it means when it says God created or God made? Because there are two different words used in Genesis chapter 1. Baka is one. That means created. Created out of nothing. But it is used very seldom. It's only used a few times. Then there's another word that I cannot pronounce, I won't try, that does not mean made out of nothing, it just means fashioned. When it says that God created Adam, which do you think he meant is used?
Made him from the dust of the ground.
It is fashioned. God made Adam out of what already existed. Now I got to stop and tell you a little joke. Just lighten the mood a little bit. Everybody's getting kind of heavy right now. You see, there was a big conflab one time between people that thought God created man and those who thought he didn't. And so they enlisted all of their experts, and God came down to be a part of this exchange. So they come to God and say, we're going to show you that we can do everything you can do, and we're going to create a man. They started gathering up a bunch of dust and dirt And God said, wait a minute. You're cheating. First, go create your own dirt. And so, lighten that up a little bit. And as you get through with these questions of where am I, who am I, and where did I come from, you get into all kinds of cute answers when you get to young people. Yes, Bob?
Can we say then that God created the earth, but he fashioned man? Would that be correct?
That's what the Genesis 1 says.
Okay.
That's what it says.
So he created the earth out of nothing, but he fashioned man to what
And he created other things out of nothing.
Okay.
But when it comes to man, it comes to animals, plants, he fashioned them. Yes, Bill?
You know, we get all out of joint about trying to determine how God did certain things. And, you know, it really doesn't make any difference about how we believe he did it. He did it.
Oh,
And so, you know, whether we believe how he did it is how we believe he did it or not. It really doesn't make any difference.
what do we try to
The
do?
essential thing is he did it.
What do we try to do? Try to make it make sense to us.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to make sense to us. Because, one, we didn't do it.
Yeah.
And one, we're not going to repeat it.
Yeah.
We're not going to do it ourselves. So, and we try, and this is very, very important, because, boy, if preachers are the number one culprits of committing this sin.
Amen.
We try to tell God how he had to do something.
Yeah.
You know what? He's God. He can do it how he wants to. He doesn't need our advice.
Exactly.
We need to remember that we're the creature, not the creator. So we begin with a worldview, and that's two of the first questions of what a worldview deals with is who am I and where did I come from? You know, there was this third grade teacher, and they were beginning to introduce the concept in social studies of family and community and city and so forth. And they'd also been in their science classes, they'd been talking about a reproduction to some very limited extent. So this teacher signed her kids, her children, her students, to go home and ask their parents where they came from. Now she was looking for ideas like, well, we moved to Mesquite from Dangerfield or Tyler or somewhere in East Texas, or from Chicago or San Antonio or wherever, or my family immigrated from Ireland, my family immigrated from Mexico, or answers like that. Well, she goes home, and her parents had been, instead of thinking social studies, her parents were all thinking sex education. So she goes to her mother, and she says, Mama, where did I come from? And Mama looks at her and says, go ask your daddy. I'm too busy right now. So she goes and asks her daddy. She said, Daddy, where did I come from? And he says, go ask your mother. She's too busy. She said, come ask you. Oh, well, we needed a little girl or wanted a little girl, so we went to the baby store and bought you. Well, that didn't sound very much like that was a good answer to her. So she gets on the phone and calls her grandmother. Grandmother, Where did I come from? Oh, honey, that's easy. The stork brought you. And so that didn't seem to satisfy the question either, so she howls up, she dials her great-granddad. And he says, Granddaddy, where did I come from? He says, oh, well, your parents went out and found you under a cabbage leaf. Next day at school, teacher calls on him and says, Susie, what did you find out about where you came from? Susie says, don't ask me, teacher, because in my family there hadn't been a natural birth in 3 generations. So we can get all tied up in these things and think we're answering the question when we're not. So where did I come from? What is right and what is wrong? Where does your understanding of right and wrong come from? Just a minute, Bill,
Yeah.
because it comes from a lot of places. All right, some of the other questions. What is the purpose of life?
Yeah.
What are you supposed to be dedicating yourself to doing? And what should I worship? Those are the basic ones we're going to deal with as far as the questions that a worldview answers. There are others that are what we call the foundation questions of life. The questions we never ask ourselves how we came to answer them that way. We've just always answered them that way. And so there must be true, there must be right. And guess what? That's the way we feel. That's the way the person who grew up in a family that did not believe in God answers that question too. I've always believed it, therefore what I believe must be right. And the person that believes in something else. So we need to be very, very careful in how we deal with people who disagree with us. The worst thing you can do, particularly if you're dealing with a young person, and you're dealing with answers to some of these questions, like life and so forth, and you kind of put down or make fun of or disrespect viewpoints that come from another worldview, because you may have the very opposite effect of what you intended to have. Now, Bill, what do you have to say?
That third item, what is right and what is wrong, actually has to do with what works in your mind. That's where you go from parroting what your parents have told you to what you develop past that point. And this is the reason why, if your parents were hypocritical, things just don't work, you know?
All right.
And so that actually has to do with the definition in your own mind of what is right and what is wrong.
All right, Brad, let's see that next slide so I know what's on the slide.
Naturalization.
All right, let's don't disregard that one for a minute. We want to talk about where worldviews come from. And they come from the environment where we are. The first and most important place that our worldview comes from are our parents. Now, here's the kicker. Worldviews are taught and worldviews are caught. And believe me, the caught part of it is more important than the taught The taught is what your parents tell you.
Yeah.
The caught is what you grow up experiencing. And most of us, worldview, come from what we grew up experiencing. What did we experience? Did our parents tell us that we believed that it was right to tell the truth, but then did they practice lives of deception? Or was deception and untruth a big part of their life? Did it work in their environment? Well, you tend to catch that. Okay, it's all right to not necessarily tell the truth if I can get by with it. Or maybe it's something else. Now let's I want us to look at three types of worldviews that are different than ours. And like I say, these are this is just representative. This is not everything or everybody, and everybody that you might put in this group doesn't necessarily believe everything like everybody else in that group. They may have some things very similar to what you believe, and you may have some things. You may have people who are Christian and are espouse Christian views that hold certain beliefs that are more like that other worldview. All right, let's look at the first one, naturalism. Naturalism is one you are going to run into a lot once you move away from home, particularly if you move into a secular type of environment. Now we spend a lot of time and effort trying to make sure our kids go to Christian schools and into Christian colleges, and we produce hothouse Christians. Works great until they get outside the hothouse, and then the faith wilts, and they literally blow up. There used to be a kind of a joke among those of us that worked in higher education about the kids, good Christian kids that came from high school and everything, get to a Christian college, and they find out that everybody in a Christian college doesn't see things like mom and dad. And first thing you know, they blow up. There are no constraints, so they have to try everything that's been told to them that's wrong. They've got to try it and see how it feels. And sometimes they recover from that. Most of the time they recover from that, but sometimes they don't. And part of it is because we raise our young people to be so sheltered, they don't realize there are people who actually believe and are taught from birth that there is no God. And that's happened right here in America. And if you go and you get to third grade and you start exploring things and you watch things like Mr. Nye, the science guy, you start finding out, hey, he didn't believe there's a God.
Or the Discovery Channel.
The Discovery Channel. The most prevalent view in America is that there really is no God. May say we believe in one, but not really, because there really isn't one. All right, naturalism. Life comes into existence through random events. Particularly, preachers like to really condemn this. They call it evolution. Well, folks, evolution is something God created.
Yeah.
General evolution, the theory of general evolution, that life originated from non-living objects, that's a different story. And that is not referred to, it is not accurately referred to as evolution. You can probably more call it the theory of general evolution. And Darwin gets blamed for a lot of that. And he created a lot of havoc in this world, but a part of it is because people attributed to him things he didn't say. He had a friend named Ingalls who was the atheist of the bunch, and he took it, they were both British and they were both authors. They both wrote at the same time. And he's the one that said, Darwin said there was no God and life came from non-living sources. So humans are only physical beings. You ever meet anybody who really is an animal rights advocate?
Oh, yeah.
And one of their favorite sayings is a boy is a pig, is a rat, is a chicken. What do they mean?
There's no difference. They're all,
There's no real difference. It's just as reasonable to eat a boy as it is to eat a pig or a chicken. You think I'm kidding? Just get out there in the real world, get outside your comfort zone, and you're going to be surprised what you run into. Okay, 4 more minutes. The other, and probably this is one of the most common worldviews you'll run into these days, is what I've chosen to call the postmodern. Most people that have gone to school since 1960 have been educated to a postmodern viewpoint. There's a different way. You know, what happened in 1957? Sputnik went up. Now, what happened in 1958 that had a drastic change or effect on changing our culture and our environment? In 1958, Congress passed the National Defense Education Act. Was not the first intervention of the federal government into education, but is the one that had the most profound effect. You heard the terms new math, new social studies, new English. Where did all those come from?
Government.
Came from the curriculum development projects that the National Defense Education Act funded. Because all of a sudden we said back, we don't know as much as the Russians. They're going to dominate us. We're going to have to learn how to put rockets up. And actually, by the time the people we started educating got there, NASA had already been to the moon and back a few times. But we started creating all these educational endeavors. And we changed the way we did public school education. And in some sense, it had an effect on people's worldview. Now, we're running out of time. We got less than 2 minutes. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to draw a line here. We're going to give you a couple of minutes to make some comments and reactions on your own. And then we're gonna pick back up next week and start trying to deal with this, because what we're dealing with is how do you talk to, how do you advocate for the truth with someone that doesn't see the world the way you do? And you can't just do it out of your comfort zone. All right, what do you have? Bill, you have something to say?
The children who have been adopted really have major anxiety to find their natural parents, their natural mother, and why she elected to give you up. That, you know, that is just paramount.
But that's a generality.
It's a generality, but it's mostly true.
Just
Okay.
not at my house.
Okay, but, okay,
It is, and it isn't. It's one of those things that can be true
yeah.
and can create quite great trauma. We'll deal with that. I'll deal with that comments later. Anybody else have anything to say that pertains to what we've talked about thus far?
You gotta find a beginning spot that you can both agree on before you can ever move into something else. Because if you don't have an agreed starting point, you're
One of the-
you're
yes.
wasting your time.
One of the things you can never afford to do is to disrespect or make fun of another person's beliefs. If you do, they're simply going to tune you out. April?
So if, one of the things that we talked about, if you believe in God and they don't believe in God, I mean, if you believe there is a God and you believe, and they believe there is not a God, or you believe the Bible is the authority and they don't think the Bible is the authority at all,
Then you've got to back up
Yeah,
and establish
establish.
some common ground to answer those questions before you ever try to go forward.
Yeah.
If you don't, they'll just simply tune you out as being an ignorant, prejudiced person.
So would you like take it back to the basics of right is right, wrong is wrong, conscious, if it hurts me it's bad, if it hurts you it's bad, and then start from something like that?
We go back, yes, you can go back, or you can go back to,
I mean, what do you go back to? Because if
Well-
you believe God created the world and they think it just came out of nothing.
we're gonna deal with some of that, April. And we're gonna deal with it by trying to answer the questions that a worldview answers. And we'll eventually get to the, what should I worship?
Eventually, okay.
That's however long it takes us to get through this worldview thing. It's the next lesson after that. But you can deal with whether or not God exists. How many of you can sit down and without using the Bible, I mean, you can use it and refer to it, but without depending on it as your only source of proof, can argue and begin to defend the belief that God exists?
I think so.
That, that's something that in the first few chapters of Romans, he deals with.
But he does, but we're going to deal with, before we get through, how you can answer those kinds of questions.
Good.
And and you don't do it by just saying, well, I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah.
We're through.
Okay. All right, go.
Seeking the lost, yes, kindly entreating, wanderers on the mountain astray. Come unto me, his message repeating, words of the Master speaking today. Going afar, upon the mountain, bringing the wonder back again, into the fold, of my Redeemer, Jesus the Lamb, for sinners slain, Seeking the lost and pointing to Jesus, souls that are weak and hearts that are sore, leading them forth in ways of salvation, showing the path to life evermore. Going afar, upon the mountain, bringing the wonder back again, into the fold, of my Redeemer, Jesus the Lamb, for sinners slain, Thus I would go on missions of mercy, following Christ from day unto day, cheering the faint and raising the fallen, pointing the lost to Jesus the way. Going afar, upon the mountain, bringing the wonder back again, into the fold, of my Redeemer, Jesus the Lamb, for sinners slain.